To Dream in the City of Sorrows is such a great title. You don't see titles like that anymore. It's way too long and terminally poetic. For the world is hollow and I have touched the sky. I have no mouth, but I must scream. Everybody else is doing it, so I can't we. Let's get this out of the way first. I know this book says Babylon 5 on the cover. And yes, I got the version that has the artwork instead of the photoshopped images of people from the show. I did not like that cover. This cover is much better. I know the book says Babylon 5 on the cover, and I'm not implying that it's not a Babylon 5 book. Obviously, it's a Babylon 5 book. But almost none of the book takes place there. But the location and the people of our favorite space station...
What?
Okay, tied for our favorite space station. Loom large over the story, for sure. Based on events that happened in the book, most of the Babylon 5 regulars are too busy dealing with Sheridan being abducted by the Streebs to have a role in the story, though Zach Allen and Garibaldi make very brief appearances. That said, this is about as good as Babylon 5 storytelling gets. What does it mean to dream in the City of Sorrows? Well, we'll get into that. But it sure sounds like the title of a Babylon 5 episode. And that's pretty much exactly what this is. Not every book in the Babylon 5 range is considered canon by the man himself, J. Michael Straczynski. But...
is it canon? Yes!
This book is 100% canon. I can totally get why this was never made into an episode, but it absolutely could have been one of the highlights of the series. To Dream in the City of Sorrows is the story of how Babylon 5's first commander, Jeffrey Sinclair, becomes Earth ambassador to Minbar, then finds that the Minbari have bigger plans for him. He's asked to lead the Anla'Shok, or Rangers in English. The Shadow War is gearing up, and the Vorlons have been helping the Minbari to prepare. Sinclair's a good soldier, but not a mindless one, so the whole thing takes some convincing on the part of Jenimer, chosen one of the Minbari, Rethen, Satai of the religious caste, and Ulkesh, the other Vorlon, the creepy Vorlon, who isn't Kosh, to get him on board. Very much not in favor of this plan is the Satai of the military caste, and one of my favorite Babylon 5 characters, Naroon. To Dream in the City of Sorrows is also the story of Catherine Sakai, planetary surveyor and Sinclair's fiancée, and her journey from surveying planets out in Shadow territory to rejoining Sinclair on Minbar and becoming a ranger herself. The tough part about her stuff in the first half of the book is that she's by herself surveying planets, and while she has stuff to do, her character doesn't really get much development until the second half of the story. There's some tension around Sinclair's inability to get communications out due to Minbari and Earth shenanigans, and Sakai's inability to receive communications on a regular basis because she's out so far. So there's a lot of wondering what the other one is up to, hoping they're okay, etc. It's clear these two love each other dearly, but as the show depicted, their relationship was always a bit up and down, and each one never quite was sure where the other stood at different points. There's a lot of that here, too. I always liked Sakai as a character on the show, and I'm glad she had more time to shine here. To Dream in the City of Sorrows is also the story of Marcus Cole, who we already know from the show as one of the Rangers, or Anla'Shok. Here we see his journey from running his family's mining colony, promising his dying brother William that he would join the Rangers, and in attaining that goal. William was himself a Ranger, and Marcus told this story briefly on the show, I think.
So how'd you get involved with the Rangers?
My brother joined 6 months before I did. I said he was being a fool, chasing legends, playing hero. He came back to warn me about a shadow attack on the mining colony I was working at. I didn't listen. I got back just in time to see him die.
I'm sorry.
Before he died, he asked me to finish what he'd started. I keep my promises.
But it's great to see the story arc in more detail. Marcus was never a standout character for me. On any other show, he might have been my favorite character, but on Babylon 5, there's so many amazing characters that he kind of gets lost in the shuffle. After reading this book, though, I think I like him a bit more, and maybe I'll give him more attention on my next rewatch, which might have to be soon. enjoying this video, why not buy my book? Flight of the Pangolin is the story of an intrepid group of heroes who decide to exit the solar system over the objections of an isolationist faction. There's actually a lot more going on than that. There's space pirates, a giant spider for no reason, all kinds of other things. Buy it now online wherever you buy books or at our website, www.thepangolinrepublic.com. You can also get fun t-shirts and random other stuff if you want. Characterizations of the book are strong. As I mentioned before, Catherine Drennan managed to get the very specific tone of Sinclair and Sakai's relationship down exactly. And Marcus is the same guy we meet on the show, if a bit less experienced. Still ready with a quip at all times and super awkward around the ladies. Sinclair spends a lot of the book in the shadow of Valen. There's some irony to this, which I will not spoil here for those of you who haven't finished the show. Just stop watching this video right now and go watch the entire series. Just pause it, come back. It'll take a few days, maybe a week if you don't sleep. Just watch.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Bye. So, I lost my job.
One more episode?
Yeah.
But I think one of the great things that Drennan does well here is play this completely straight. I really enjoyed the various explorations into Minbari culture and how much Valen influenced Minbari culture after the first Shadow War. We get to spend more time with some Minbari that the show only had time to deal with briefly. My man Naroon has an important supporting role, but it's not his book to carry. His job here is just to be completely difficult at almost every turn. I also liked how Sinclair has an instantly negative vibe from Ulkesh, especially compared to his experience with Kosh. Ulkesh was always kind of creepy. I'm not sure how much of this book is a result of Michael O'Hare leaving the show at the end of Season 1, which left only a few opportunities for him to return for guest spots. Straczynski activated one of his trapdoor contingencies and introduced Bruce Boxleitner as Captain Sheridan for Season 2 and going on through the rest of the series. The show had a much different vibe after that. Not better or worse, just different. Thankfully, O'Hara was well enough to come back as Sinclair for some very important guest appearances, but there likely wasn't time or budget to wrap up his storyline on the show. So I'm glad they managed to do it here. Like so many of Babylon 5's cast, O'Hare has since passed on. I hope you had a chance to read this book, though the closure that the show provides for Sinclair is pretty adequate. I mean, that last shot of him in War Without End Part 2 is pretty awesome. What isn't this book? This book has a lot of ground to cover, so it's not a comprehensive look at Ranger training. But if there's a thing you're interested in, there is a bit of training and a good amount of Anla'Shok and general Minbari lore thrown in. Most of the core characters from the majority of the series are not here. So in a way, it's not much of a Babylon 5 book. But really, come on, no book in the world is more B5 than this book. If you've watched the show, you know where some of these characters end up. And for the characters whose fate was more up in the air, the book closes out their storylines in a way that the word inevitable comes to mind. I finished this book at work on my lunch break, and the only thing that stopped me from being a blubbering mess was that I didn't want to fall apart in front of my coworkers. The book is called To Dream in the City of Sorrows. The inevitability is both crushing and, in a weird way, narratively satisfying. So what does it mean to dream in the City of Sorrows? Well, Jennifer explains in the book. In the dark time, said Jennifer, when Minbari still fought Minbari, and bloody wars raged continually across our planet, the most terrible battle of our history was fought on this site. More than 1 million Minbari soldiers died in one long day of savage fighting. The brutality and utter futility of that battle so shocked Minbari on both sides of the war that they finally sought a peaceful solution to their problems. Together, they decreed that the battlefield site would forevermore be dedicated to peace, healing, and prophecy, which is why it is said that to dream in the City of Sorrows is to dream of a better future. That's all I've got for this episode. Stay tuned for the next episode of Mike's Book Report, where I discuss a book that you haven't thought about since the Third Age of Man.